Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. Always a pleasure and a privilege for us to get together for these. And so thankful for all of you who are bookmarking this and making it your weekly sit down with us. It's always nice to see you. And so thank you for your great comments and notes. And those of you that either watch while we're broadcasting or come on by throughout the week, we're always grateful you did. And I'm thankful for those of you who bookmark and been sharing remnantwatch.com. It's a labor of love, something that we enjoy putting out. And you will always, of course, find the latest broadcast right here at that top link, folks. I just always want to remind you of that. And again, thank you again to all of those who stand with this house to make these broadcasts possible. After all, we wouldn't be able to do this without the unity of the brethren, where he places the barakah. The barakah is upon his people, and it's a wonderful thing to watch. And so grateful for all of you who are part of that wonderful story that is unfolding right now. And it doesn't look like it in the world. I got to tell you something. I mean, if your eyes are only on the world and only on the things of the world, well, it can get pretty depressing. I mean, it can get pretty difficult because their world, if you will, is collapsing. There are many parts of it that are really coming apart. And so it is, we need that contrasting picture. How many know that if you're only looking at the 850 on the one hill and no fire falls, you think there is no Elohayim, there is no one up there. But then you see Eliyahu on the other hill. And how many know that we need that contrasting picture, especially in this hour? So thank you for those of you that are providing that contrasting picture through your obedience as the Barakah of Elohayim, as the Barakah of the Most High begins to descend upon you and transform you. So again, I'm really grateful for all of you. And tonight we've got quite a few stories to cover. So let's get into the news. And the top story tonight, it doesn't pertain. I mean, it's a different kind of war. How many know that we are in a very, very spiritual war? And the reason why we do these broadcasts is because we wanted to take the 10,000 foot view. People were disconnecting completely from the news. And some of you may be one of those people. Maybe you're one of those that said, man, I stopped watching. I didn't want to know. And that's one solution, but then you're completely disconnected and you're caught unawares a lot of times. And then there's too informed, you know what I mean? Where you're getting to the point where you're getting beeps on your phone or watching things all day and you can't even focus. So we had to strike a balance. And what we like to say around here is we want to be informed without being overwhelmed. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story, looks like the Vatican is going to be swinging its last. And I want to tell you something, folks. This is more dangerous than you realize. And that's why I'm pointing it out, as it is, in fact, spiritual warfare. Pope Francis opened 5 sacred portals on this eve of a pagan holiday. And those of you that are waking up and realizing that we were severely deceived by these things are coming to understand just how serious these spiritual forces really are. And he is apparently reported to be opening 5 sacred portals, ritual that's never been done before. So we have something unprecedented being done by a Jesuit. I'm just pointing it out. I'm not accusing or saying anything. I'm just saying something unprecedented, never done before by a Jesuit. Pope Francis will commence a centuries-long Catholic tradition on Christmas Eve and introduce a first-time historical addition to the holy ritual. Starting on December 24th, the Pontiff will open a series of 5 holy doors throughout this snake complex called the Vatican. I think we're all no longer fooled by this from a religious context. And certainly not from a context of authorized kingdom behavior. But I want to point out something that you may not be aware of. And this is kind of important for us to understand because, again, we wrestle not, right? According to the scripture, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. And so we have to understand the battlefield, if you will, right? We have to kind of get out of the carnal, and we got to get into the battlefield. And many of you may not have known that Revelation 9:1 tells us that the 5th angel will sound. The 5th angel will sound, and a star will fall from the heaven onto the earth, and a key was given of the bottomless pit. And again, in Revelation 16:10, it was the fifth angel that poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. So again, that's not incidental, and it's something that we should probably not look lightly upon. We are, in fact, walking into some very interesting days, my friends. Days of great peril, days where we are seeing the fulfillment of the scripture in ways that we didn't maybe understand what Apostle John was saying, or some of the other apostles, what they were writing. And now we're getting clarity as we see the events actually unfold. We go, oh, that's what they meant. Oh, that's what he was talking about. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing realignment going on in the very theater of the Middle East. So this is something that we're certainly paying close attention to. I know many of you are paying attention to this very, very dangerous theater of operations going on now in the Middle East, right? So Iran and Turkey have signed a cooperation agreement, which is an interesting development considering that Iran is certainly not a NATO member and Turkey is. And they have a $30 billion target. So kind of hard to anticipate that NATO is going to be attacking or dealing with Iran aggressively when their nearest NATO partner is not, doesn't look like they're looking to fight Iran. The agreement was signed in the presence of Iran's Minister of Roads and Urban Development and Turkey's Minister of Trade during the 29th Joint Economic Cooperation Commission meeting held in Tehran on Wednesday. And so, again, a lot of theatrics. Sometimes we don't really know what's going on. We think their party's about to go to war. You know, things are about to blow up, and then all of a sudden things change. Well, maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they know that that you know, these developments are not going as they're being advertised. So right now, if you look at the news, you're going to hear things like, you know, that Israel is just going around conquering everybody. But that all depends on who you listen to. So we're going to look at two sides of that story. Israel, according to this report, was forced to accept a ceasefire with Hezbollah, according to BBC Arabic. So again, it depends on which side of this conflict you're reading the news on. And of course, the analysis published on Wednesday that Israel had been faced with challenges in southern Lebanon nearly 2 months after it launched a ground invasion into the area, and despite having air supremacy in the conflict. And the report said that Israel had failed to take control of any single city in southern Lebanon while it was unable to fend off Hezbollah's missile attacks against Israeli-controlled territories. Now, I don't think this is far from over, folks, but I do think this is an interesting development, considering that they keep painting this picture. And so we got two competing pictures being painted, if you will, in front of us. Meanwhile, what we do know and we can confirm is that Israel did strike Syria 480 times and seized territory as Netanyahu pledges to change the face of the Middle East. So they're certainly very aggressive. And again, this, I think, plays into a certain base politically, an attempt to essentially keep circling the wagons and get out in front of narratives. But it is getting increasingly difficult to do that. The collapse of the Assad regime has prompted a punishing military response from Israel, which has launched airstrikes at military targets across Syria and deployed ground troops into and beyond a demilitarized buffer zone for the first time in 50 years. So once again, some unprecedented activity, folks. We keep hearing these words: never before, first time ever, never done before. Don't we keep an eye on those kinds of things, guys? We keep an eye on when they use words like that. Never been done before. And this attack against Syria was no small attack. Israel absolutely destroyed the Syrian Navy. And that's coming in from multiple different reports were coming in on this. This coming from Naval News, and the IDF has not released a detailed statement regarding these strikes, but the military sources spoke to the Israeli media confirm that the Navy conducted a major operation on Monday night to eliminate a former regime's naval fleet. The operation is part of a broader campaign to neutralize military assets and prevent them from falling into the hands of hostile forces. So again, the effort is to or the cover story, if you will, is we don't want these to fall into the hands of terrorists, so we're going to go ahead and destroy them, which, you know, does have some does make some sense, except that I find it quite contradictory to act like a terrorist and then say we're stopping terrorists. Who's inflicting the pain and the fear? Isn't that what terrorism is about? Is inflicting fear? And there certainly seems to be quite a bit of that being dealt out. And so we do need to keep an eye on this situation as it develops in the Middle East. And as a matter of fact, things are changing there, guys. We told you we would keep an eye on this stuff. And thankfully, it is not going quite the way these who I think were operating with less than full integrity. And I think it's coming to roost. And again, this is not taking sides in any conflicts. We don't do that. But we do take a look at change of tactics. And this we've been taking note of for some time, because the way in which this is being done and the attack that is now being leveled is considerable, with a different focus point. And Netanyahu is facing a graft trial in a court chamber that's used. They noticed this when they were doing the video depositions. People started to point out that he's actually being in a chamber used for criminal gangs. According to the Palestinian Information Center, Netanyahu on Tuesday testified before the Tel Aviv District Court in a fortified underground anti-missile hall known as Hall 512, which was used to try Israeli criminal gangs and is one of the most secure branches of Israeli courts. And so I do think that there's concern about attempts on his life. There's already been, I think, a couple of attempts on his life, so that may be prompting some of that. But I also think it is because he is no longer the free person he used to be. And as a matter of fact, the criticism that's coming up out of Israel itself may be the best indicator of that. Yes, an ex-defense minister that is saying some very strong things about what Netanyahu has actually been doing. And it's a dangerous notion if you really consider the implications. It says here that they believe Netanyahu, according to them, is pushing Israel toward a civil war. And we've been talking about this because we've been seeing them in the streets protesting the policies of the Netanyahu government. And so it has been quite a civil war already. And Netanyahu is sacrificing the state to preserve his coalition, says Avigdor Lieberman. Former Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday of fueling the risk of civil war in Israel. And this is not a new conversation. There's a lot of people in Israel that are asking new questions in this time. And I do think that is a wise course of action because, again, there are many things that don't add up. They're not mathing correctly. And as we start adding up, the most secure state in probably the world didn't respond for 7 hours when its border was breached. Nobody's buying that. Nobody. So that's why we pause. That's why we stopped and we think about what is going on here. And we have to be careful. And I do think that it is wise to ask hard questions, especially in a difficult time. I don't care who you are. You should have to answer them. You've stood up to be a leader, to be responsible. You're going to have to deal with some of those things. And so I do think that some of this may be just persecution. Some of it may just be his political enemies, kind of like Trump had to deal with, where they're just persecuting him. And that could be. But I do think that some of the unmitigated bloodshed that has rained down throughout the Middle East, especially in the last year, most certainly warrants response and review. I don't think you can walk away saying everybody has clean hands in this type of situation. So it is a very difficult time, and that is now starting to reach all over the world. How many have been hearing more and more news now than ever about these orbs and these drones? As a matter of fact, people are starting to threaten to take things into their own hands. This is kind of interesting. I wondered how long the Americans would take before they would start to respond to some of this stuff on their own. So, and especially New Jersey. Come on. I mean, New Jersey, really? New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. I wondered how long it would be before they started shooting at them. So Apparently, New Jersey residents frustrated with the lack of answers are starting to do. Now, I did see one video that they were purporting was from someone shooting, and it actually turned out to be fake. I don't know if this is it. This might have been one of them that where they superimposed some shooting into a video. So not all of it's real. Some of it is just theatrics, folks. Some of it is just to mess with you. But some of this is kind of interesting. I mean, look at this. Residents are reporting possible drone crash in New Jersey, prompting investigation. Dun, dun, dun. News at 11. Okay. Hillsborough, New Jersey. Authorities converged on Hillsborough, New Jersey, Friday following a report incident that could be related to a drone. Ooh, not that drones, not the dreaded drones. Okay. So it seems to be taking a lot of attention away from a lot of other things as we're all paying attention to the drone issue. Everybody's paying attention to the drones. Mystery New Jersey drones go dark when spotted, according to the governor. And New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy said the recent drones, which have been sighted in the state, are very sophisticated. The sophisticated drones, man. Saying the minute you get your eyes on them, they go dark. Oh man, they're like spiritual, man. They're scary. What's going on with the drones? Everybody, beware. In other news, Chinese nationals were arrested for flying drones over the U.S. airbase. Oops. I just want to slip this in, just in Telegraph. Just gonna squeeze this in there. Just so you know what happened. Aircraft said to be taking photographs the same day SpaceX rocket launch with sensitive payload. And so I think we've got a number of different things going on at once, and nobody wants to tell you what's really happening, but I think they're all just playing around. And according to the incoming president, this is almost getting laughable, folks, but Trump suggests government should just shoot down unidentified drones on the East Coast. Just shoot them down. Just go ahead and shoot. President-elect Donald Trump on Friday weighed in on a weeks-long search for answers about sightings of mysterious drone-like objects flying over New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. Can you guys smell PSYOP? I can. So I'm just saying, mess with people's heads. Yeah, it's all over. Ooh, check this out. Come on, guys. Mysterious orb appears to hover over Minnesota sky. It's happening. It's the alien invasion. Oh no. Project Bluebeam. Following recent reports of drones hovering over New York and New Jersey, they're getting desperate when they're resorting to this stuff. Mysterious glowing orbs have this week been seen moving in the skies above Minnesota. Maybe those states like Star Wars like fights in the heavens. Wouldn't that be awesome? They use like 3D, like super realistic the hologram technology, and we get to watch like super awesome fights in the sky, like pew pews, a bunch of pew pews in the sky. Quick, everybody get Americans are sitting out with their popcorn like, whoa, that one shot that one. Oh man, quick barbecue, watching the aliens shoot each other. I'm not kidding. I saw a video of an orb that shot down a drone. An orb shot down a drone. Which one are we chasing? Are we chasing the orbs or the drones? Wait a minute. Which one's on our side? The orbs on our side or the drones are on our side? Or are either one of them on our side? Are they all against? Wait a minute. What's going on here? Who's on first? What's on second? What's going on? Right? I'm not even kidding. It's hilarious. And it's like, oh, this is the new thing. Oh, this sells newspapers. You got to talk about something. We got to talk about something to the inauguration, right? So they're going to make up stuff. It's hilarious. It really is. And so what do we got? We got drones spotted over Connecticut sky, and latest phenomenon, the Pentagon has not disclosed the possible origin of multiple drones spotted in New Jersey in recent weeks. Don't. Keep the suspense going. Several drones were spotted in the skies above Connecticut suburb Thursday night, adding to the recent sightings that have perplexed residents and raised questions about possible national security and public safety concerns. Aren't you concerned? about the public safety concerns. First of all, how many of you have been shot at by a drone? Anybody? Anybody get killed by a drone? Anybody attacked by a drone? Anybody hurt by a drone? Bothered by a drone? Disturbed by a drone? We got real threats, and here we are worrying about things that didn't touch nobody, didn't do nothing to nobody, as far as just lights in the sky. We got real threats and real problems, taking food out of people's mouths, destroying entire industries, blowing things up, making things fall down that you didn't even notice, and we're all looking up in the sky taking pictures of drones. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's not even here just in the United States. This thing is worldwide, as unidentified drones are sighted over U.S. airbase. What kind of airbase? Oh, a U.S. airbase. Well, that's kind of cool. I wonder if there's any coincidence. Nah, I'm sure it's just coincidental that it's a U.S. airbase. Berlin. Unidentified drones have been sighted over sensitive industry locations and the U.S. airbase at Ramstein in Germany in recent weeks. The Spiegel News magazine reported on Friday, citing a confidential report by German security authorities. We needed to let you know that. It was a secure report. It was classified. No one knew. And then we decided, you know what? We're going to call up. Hey, you guys getting this? Okay. They had it secure. It was a secure report. Nobody knew. Okay? Nobody knew about this. But they decided. They said, you know what? We got to let you know. Why do we got to let the public know? We don't know. We just feel like we should. There's a reason why we laugh at some of this stuff, because it is so corny. Like it's like the script writers went on strike and they had the B team in writing the script for a while. Now the A team's back, but the A team's like, what did you guys do, man? You messed the whole thing up. Now we're going to have to write in like this crazy nonsense to bring us back on story. It's like somehow or another, they're going to make it make sense to us in about 3 months, right? But right now we're going, what? Yeah. Welcome to our world, folks, run by theatrics and Hollywood people who think that's reality. They live in a fiction world and they think that's reality. And of course, it's not just, it's not guys on the ground, just guys just looking up in the sky. Folks, the kinds of things that are coming in are quite credible. I mean, it's not like there isn't something there. There is something there. It's actually quite interesting what's coming in, because, I mean, you got even pilots now reporting UFOs moving at extreme speed while flying here. This report was coming in over Oregon. So at least 4 pilots witnessed UFOs, some moving at extreme speeds over Oregon this past weekend. And the FAA spokesman told Daily Mail that at least one of the aviators reported seeing unidentified lights while flying in Seattle. This is what keeps bothering me, guys, right here. So was the guy who wrote this entire report incapable of writing down the name of the FAA official or spokesperson? I mean, if it's a spokesperson, aren't they paid to be a spokesperson? So wouldn't you then, by nature, get the name of the spokesperson, seeing as it's their job to be, wait for it, a spokesperson? Doesn't that make you all go, well, wait a second, which spokesperson? Who said this? Who are we holding accountable for this information? Oh, nobody. Because in the way my lunch break does it, we founded it. We found this story. We found his testimony on a found tape. I mean, you can't tell us who it is. You can't even make up a name like Holly Smith or something. No, you just guys are going to tell us some FAA official spokesperson. Can't tell us which. Told us all. And then just going to go on for paragraphs of stuff. And they're quoting someone without telling us who it is. So we can't vet it. We can't go ask that person, did you actually say this? We can't check. Okay, this is blatant propaganda manipulation, straight up. There's too many signs of it. There's too many indicators. Not, again, to say that people aren't seeing things in the sky, not to say that they aren't seeing legitimate things, but there's a heavy hand of manipulation in all of these things. Okay. And it isn't as if they aren't authorities trying to do something about it. New York Jersey sheriff sent its own drone to follow the mystery aircraft. And so the New Jersey Police Department has sparked concern after it revealed that a drone went up to track a mystery aircraft, easily evaded their device before disappearing into thin air. So they couldn't even keep up with this drone technology. Ocean County Sheriff Michael Martinez said his force launched its drone after one of its officers saw 50 unmanned aerial vehicles coming off the ocean. And the officer dialed 911 to alert state police, the FBI, and the Coast Guard. The maritime agency then reported seeing spotted 13 drones following their boat, estimated that the device had a wingspan of 8 feet. That is not a tiny drone. Martinardi told News Nation Rich Mahue the force put up an industrial grade zone. And by the way, see how we're getting the name of this sheriff? Okay, so we could like check with him if we wanted to. I have more. This has a more credible feel to it. This story, okay, and this incident is just one of many drone sightings occurring concerning locals in the Garden State and beyond. So, I mean, again, I do think that there's legitimately something happening. It's not that there isn't something legitimately happening, but I think that they're definitely manipulating and they're definitely pushing this and at the expense of other stories that may be much more relevant to our lives, is my point. Certainly the economic situations going on right now are much more relevant to your lives than somebody playing with their toys. I mean, now when it starts interfering with airports, then it does become relevant to our lives. So there is a line at which then it does become issue, right? So if the drones start interfering with runways and New York airports, yeah, then I think you do need to send out the troops. Okay, but I do think that there's some of this that is being a little bit manipulated, not overblown. I do think it's important. I just think we also have to remember that they use one thing to cover another. And of course, this is a New York report. The governor over there is basically calling for federal assistance after the latest drones sighting temporarily shut down the airport. So you are having governor officials, and if this is a theatrical performance, which it looks like to me, they're playing along perfectly, sounding alarms and sounding very alarmed. And by their alarm, they're alarming others, right? So you know how that goes. If you get all freaked out, then everybody around you gets a little freaked out. And it does look to me like that seems to be a little bit of what they're trying to do right now. And although I do think that there's some legitimacy to that story. Oh, it looks like I lost one here. Just more of the same. Google says that it has access. Did you guys hear about this? A parallel universe. They're not even hiding this stuff anymore, guys. Google said it has accessed parallel universes with its new supercomputer. This is really spooky, folks. If you haven't heard about this, this is really like, this is really out there. Google's quantum computing breakthrough, if you heard about this on Monday, has left the physicists who headed the project a believer in the idea that we live in a multiverse. Willow, the tech giant's new quantum chip, succeeded in solving a computational problem so complex it would have taken today's best supercomputers an estimated 10 septillion years to solve it, vastly more than the age of our entire universe. But Google said its new quantum computer solved the puzzle in under 5 minutes. So, calling Willow's performance astonishing, the leader and founder of Google's quantum AI team, physicist Hartmut Neven, said its high-speed results lends credence to the notion that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes. I don't know what they're drinking at Google, but they done went off the deep end. And folks, this is the stuff that is now going to be taking off in this next era. And so when we see bottomless pit rituals going on along with supercomputer quantum computing, talking about multidimensional, while we have drone activity going on in the sky, so as to cause all of us to wonder what's really going on, right? And not all of it is supernatural crazy stuff. Some of it is just people doing things, but there's a reason for these people doing these things, and that's what we're looking at. 2 men are accused of flying a drone near Logan Airport, and they appear in court. So I wonder sometimes if this isn't a bit of a copycat kind of a thing, right? So people who are jumping on board with their drones, like, hey, they're flying drones, let's go get ours. And then they get arrested while the other drones disappear. So I do think there's a little bit of silliness going on top of it. But there is something happening with these drones. Don't Don't get it twisted. And I think all these government officials are playing along with, like this guy. He gives the states the power. Give states the power to shoot down drones, says Homeland Security Secretary, who couldn't care less about securing a border if his life depended on it. But he wants you to shoot down the drones. Quick, grab a bottle of Ripple and shoot a drone. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And again, I think it's a theatrical performance, and I think so does the incoming president. I think he thinks it's theatrical as well. As a matter of fact, he says the Biden admin knows what is happening on the drones, and so Trump is saying that the government is keeping people in suspense, and he's basically blowing the whistle, saying they're doing it on purpose. President-elect Trump claims that President Biden's administration knows what is happening regarding the unexplained drone sightings in New Jersey, in New York, and other states. And Trump made the statements Monday during a lengthy press conference with reporters at Mar-a-Lago, and saying the U.S. military certainly knows the origin of the drone. So again, guys, these are the reasons why we get a little skeptical. And we know the theatrical nature of the administration that is departing, and I'm not so certain all of them are departing, so we may be still in for more theatrics. And of course, they're going to just downplay it. They're acting like, what are you talking about? Go back to sleep, grab another drink. Biden administration officials downplay concerns about drone sightings. A slight overreaction. Yeah, you guys are just overreacting. Officials downplay concerns while admitting the drones are still being investigated. Don't worry about it, but we're still checking. But don't worry about it, but we're still checking. They could be nuclear. They could. Yeah, they could. They could be hostile. Well, they could, but we're still checking, and you're overreacting. Well, if we're overreacting, then why are you checking? Can't have it both ways, folks. And they love to do that doublespeak to people because they're assaulting your intelligence. But what I see is something else going on. And those of us that have been around a while have been waiting to see this. We've been waiting to see this exactly. And so this is a very dangerous behavior that we're watching going on at Mar-a-Lago. Business executives are scrambling to bend the knee. And coming along, I'm not going to read this. You guys can go check it out on Truthers, or I'm sorry, not the Truthers Journal. Well, you could check it out on the Truthers Journal because they talk about some of those things, but over at remnantwatch.com. And my brother over at Truthers Journal certainly would wake you up about some of the things they're doing, because he'll help you out with all these projects and things that they've got going on. And there's stuff happening that we're not being told about. Look at this. This is a little hint. What's this mean? Trump calls Trudeau governor of the great state of Canada. The governor of a state? Oh, is Canada going to become a state? Somebody forget to tell us that? Right? Just going to go ahead and add Canada to the United States. You'd be putting Canada out of business if he does the tariff, so it might not be such a bad idea. Especially since they sort of align themselves with those that are not necessarily for or, in favor of the incoming administration's agendas. So I do think that you're going to see some realignments, folks. I don't think you can get away with it or get away from it. I think you're going to see realignments no matter what you do. And I think that those realignments are political. I think those realignments are going to be social. You're seeing there's social realignments going on right now. I think political realignments are absolutely happening because the bad guy, good guy lines are moving. The whole red team, blue team thing is falling apart, completely falling apart. And they're starting to reform lines. That's why you're seeing things like this, guys. Trump saying RFK Jr. will study possible link between childhood, these things, and this as HHS secretary, right? So this is really important because this is basically crossing the line. This is basically forming an all-star team that's on both sides of the aisle, if you will. Okay. But in reality, it's all part of the same group that's been doing everything all along. So this will look good, though. A lot of people will lower their guard. A lot of people will relax and say, oh, we're good. And we're not seeing, we're seeing some rhetoric that we didn't see before. And we certainly didn't see it in the first term. We didn't hear things like this. But we're starting to see things like this now, very much different, very different authoritarian speech, very different types of rhetoric that we're now hearing, very threatening rhetoric, very authoritative, very authoritarian. And I mean, he's not even in office yet, folks. Look at this. He's already weighing the options to stop Iran from going nuclear, including preemptive strikes, which did we not just read that Turkey and Iran, Turkey, a NATO partner, and Iran have partnered up? So that just got complicated, right? I mean, that's going to make it harder for you to make Turkey the bad guy. Or I'm sorry, Iran the bad guy, right? In this theatrical performance that they tend to like to do. So things are changing, and it's going to be hard for that to get pulled off. I'm not sure how that unfolds, but we're definitely going to watch it. But the thing that I believe is really happening, and I think the thing that they're trying desperately not to draw too much attention to, is the absolutely wholesale change that is going on the economic front in this time period. We've come to the end of the 50-year period where the petrodollar was instituted. It is the year of Jubilee from that particular time period, if you're looking at it from that standpoint. And certainly those in the Middle East did not want to renew an agreement that would put them back into a 50-year cycle. So they shut it down. Saudi Arabia didn't agree. June of this year, that came to an end. We're seeing several things that are coming to an end as a result of that time period, and it's a very spiritual time period. So consequently, what we're watching change now, what we're watching the transition to, is a whole different economic system. I do believe it's going to have a lot more light. It's going to be a lot harder to be corrupt in it because of the lessons that we've all learned as a species, if you will, on Earth. And I do believe that there are some very big changes. And I do think that there are sinister forces trying desperately to find ways to still operate their nefarious businesses while hiding in plain sight. And it's just the reason why it hasn't already switched is because they can't figure out how to still pull off all the things they were doing without getting caught. So we're seeing a very big shift over, and now Treasury picks a global economic reordering. The Treasury sees a global economic reordering. President Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, has stated that he believes the world is on the cusp of a global economic reordering. Boy, oh boy, howdy. Okay. And he would like to be a part of it. He has hinted at the need for a new international agreement on the level of famous Bretton Woods Agreement. Are you hearing this? Okay. This is literally what established the world reserve currency, folks. Okay. So this is all about to shift, and many of you may not be aware that the Ripple stablecoin was just authorized to be released, and it will be out on December 17th. It's coming out this week. It's actually tomorrow. So things are changing very quickly. And by the way, the theatrics in Syria aren't always what we thought. Like, for example, did you know that Russian troops continue to operate in this airbase in Syria? I can't pronounce it. Khaimaman. They're still operating out of that. So again, that's why we take a cautious view of the news, because so many times we find out after we take a closer look that, well, maybe not everything is quite what we thought it was. And one thing that, again, they have no power to control is the weather, or it's the Earth itself as it reacts to the changes that are going on. One of the things that we keep an eye on are things like this, where there are horrible cyclones and things like that. And again, the most powerful cyclone for a century. So see that, folks? Once again, we see words that are unprecedented, first time in 100 years, things like that we like to watch out for. Thousands are feared dead after an island in the Indian Ocean was hit by a devastating cyclone. Wow, which carried 163 mile per hour winds that left a trail of destruction. Boy, howdy, likened to the aftermath of a nuclear war. Cyclone Chido hit Mayotte, France's poorest region, over the weekend, and has been considered the most violent that the island has experienced in almost a century. Wow, that's crazy. So again, Earth reacting, and folks, this could hit anywhere. Things like this are happening all over the place. And there's a lot of changes going on. Did you guys hear about that shooting? Ugh, Wisconsin shooting. That was rough. Let me see if I can pull it up. It was really sad. And as it turns out, it was a young girl that was involved in that shooting. So really sad story there. And you will find it on Remnant Watch. You'll find a couple stories on that. It was very, very sad. They updated the shooter situation. I guess it was 2 victims. And then the young lady took her own life. And so this is all demonic, folks. This is all demons doing these things. And they're getting at these children through devices, through all kinds of things, folks. We got to get smarter. And now they're using AI to get these kids back to the plantation, man. Schools are using AI to send police to students' homes. Schools are employing dubious AI-powered software to accuse students of wanting to harm themselves and sending cops to their homes as a result, with chaotic and traumatic results. I bet. Your pre-crime program, you guys remember that movie with Tom Cruise where they had the pre-crime and they're trying to prevent crime? Ooh, things could get dicey, okay? But I think this AI is way more dangerous than people are letting on. What about this story, guys? Have you heard about this? I just read this today. I had no idea that this had happened. I didn't even know that there was a whistleblower. So I didn't know that there was anything to whistleblow about. So this is really kind of interesting in and of itself, right? Check this out, guys. An OpenAI whistleblower is found dead in San Francisco apartment. And a former AI researcher known for whistleblowing the blockbuster artificial intelligence company facing a swell of lawsuits over its business model has died, authorities confirmed this week. He's only 26 years old. He was found dead inside his Buchanan Street apartment on November 26th. The San Francisco police in the office of the chief medical examiner said. Wow. So the poor kid was letting people know that there were troubles with this thing. And as a matter of fact, it cost him his life. And if you believe that's a coincidence, well, I've got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. There's stuff going on right now. Oh, by the way, did you guys hear about the Nevada earthquake? Yeah. Earthquakes going all over. I heard 7.0 off California's coast, and then there was another one in the Madrid. Maybe we'll have time for that report as well. But yeah, earthquakes going on all over the place now. 5.6 magnitude earthquake that struck Nevada on Monday afternoon was strong enough to rattle homes in California. The earthquake hit 15 miles out of Yerington, about 40 miles east of Carson City, and about 3 p.m. And more than 10,000 people reported feeling the shaking. So we're starting to see more and more odd earthquakes in diverse places, as Messiah warned us we would see. So diverse earthquakes. And here's that story about the New Madrid fault. Look at this, guys. 7 earthquakes shake the areas around the New Madrid fault line. This is, of course, in Kentucky. Officials with the Evansville-Vanderburgh County Emergency Management Agency in Indiana say 7 earthquakes happened Monday morning around the New Madrid fault line. Scary, scary, folks. Scary, scary stuff. According to Missouri State Emergency Management Agency, 5 earthquakes were detected near Marston, Missouri, while 2 were detected near Ridgely, Tennessee. All of the quakes are considered to be the magnitude of 1 or higher. And of course, as these things start to shake, you start wondering what's coming up out of the ground. Stay tuned. The scripture talks about things coming up out of the ground. And that 5th angel in the bottomless pit, things being released from the bottomless pit. And what was that the Vatican doing? How many portals they opening? What they said they were going to do? Interesting. I wonder if Kadosh land will become important. But I digress. Check this out, guys. If you've been paying attention to the wildfires, talk about Ring of Fire, brother. Look at this. Wildfire has exploded in Malibu, spurring mass evacuations and shelter in place in Pepperdine University. And folks, it is scary looking. Look at that. Some of the pictures I saw this were no fun, man. Ferocious wildfires were spreading rapidly early Tuesday in Malibu, spurring evacuations along the coast, while nearby Pepperdine University issued a campus-wide shelter-in-place order, and firefighters struggled to battle the flames. So this is a very, very serious fire, folks, and California is definitely going up in smoke in a whole different section. They can't catch a break. This state, I tell you what, the fires just keep coming for California. So here we are again with another one of those. And I did hear about a storm that was coming up. I think it kind of fizzled a bit on the East Coast, but I think we better keep our eyes around. You keep your head on a swivel on these days, because there's too much going on at once. And speaking of keeping your head on a swivel, how many know that people are now realizing that they're surrounded by enemy things all around them? And this is something that many of you already knew. All right. So this is old news to many of you. I get it. Many of you are going to go, I've been telling them, but they don't be listening to me, Peter. They don't listen. I know. Now we got the news coming out telling them that doctors are warning that cooking oil used by millions may be fueling an explosion in colon cancers in young people. Certain types of cooking oils may be fueling a surge of colon cancers among young people, a government study suggests. Consuming large amounts of seed oils, which includes sunflower, canola, corn, or grapeseed oil, has long been linked to inflammation in the body. So these oils are dangerous. These seed oils are dangerous, folks. But now a study analyzing the tumors of more than 80 patients with colon cancer has found that they may also raise the risk of some of the fastest growing forms of the disease. So it was a setup from the get up. It was a setup from the get up, from Jump Street. They're trying to kill you. They try to kill you. Okay, yeah. So you gotta watch out, because they are really things are really starting to get a little bit dicey out there. I mean, let's face it. We've lost. We've entered idiocracy, right? So you, you guys are all dealing with it. You go order a sandwich, you'll see it. All right. Hey, by the way, did you guys know? Here's a crazy notion. Wow, what a story! This took a twist. You remember that we covered this last week about the shooting, the United Healthcare CEO. Remember that? Check out this twist, guys. This is interesting. How are you going to write a law about this one? This one's crazy. Watch this. Luigi Mangione, suspect in fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, used a ghost gun that may have been 3D printed. Wow. He created it. 3D printing means he had a 3D printer and he printed it and created it. It's basically plastic, or a form of plastic, if you will, like a resin, and he formed it. It's so precise that it could form. It's used for machine parts. I mean, so it's extremely precise. That opens up a whole new world. I'm not even sure we should really be talking about that, because 3D printers aren't that cheap, or not that expensive. But there you go, folks. Now they can 3D print a weapon. Wow. Okay, so again, could you imagine if they disarmed everyone? Everyone, we disarmed you all. Did you take away the 3D printers? No. Right. Yeah, it's been idiocracy for a while, brother. I think we crossed that line a while ago, and it's become dystopian. Maybe dystopian. I don't know. Would you guys use the word dystopian? Maybe they did in the Daily Mail. They said that there's dystopian wanted posters of top health CEOs appearing in New York City now. Look at this. Wanted posters are now going up all over the city for other CEOs who were also denying people coverage. I mean, I guess that's apparently the big thing. Alarming wanted posters of top healthcare executives popping up across New York City prompted police to issue a bulletin warning leaders of the rising threats. In the wake of the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, video sharing on social media showed wanted signs featuring other healthcare corporate leaders plastered across traffic control boxes in Manhattan. The menacing posters were erected on Canal Street, one of Manhattan's busiest thoroughfares. flanked with red and black words, "Wanted." Denying medical care for corporate profit. Healthcare CEOs should not feel safe. Wow. That is not a good sign, folks. That is a bad indicator. That is the proverbial, what would you call that? I think that's your proverbial pitchforks and guys with pitchforks. Yeah, it's something that people were warning about. Like, people will react. There will be a reaction, right? And so there's a lot of this that's going on, and a lot of it has to do, I think, with the mind control that they implemented for many years. And I think that we are still subject to. If you got young people addicted to Netflix, you got young people addicted to content that is constantly programming them, you have very dangerous young people. You need to be very careful with the kinds of things that we allow to influence our children. And even here, we have to be very careful. Even on Kadosh land, even amongst the saints, we got to be careful. And as a matter of fact, one of the most dangerous things you can allow your teenage person to do is become addicted to media. It can be incredibly dangerous. In fact, according to this next story, our final story for tonight, it can be fatal. And so for you parents who are correcting a child who is maybe spending a little too much time or an inordinate amount of time with video games, you yank that thing, put a hammer to it, and throw it out the window. You're and any of you young people who are fighting with your parents about your video game usage, if you argue with your parents about that and they take a hammer and smash your video games into 1,000 pieces, they're doing you a favor. So do not allow this stuff. Once it becomes a point where it starts to modify your behavior, get on your nerves, make you unsociable, make you quick-tempered, make you start acting very harshly toward people who tell you got to get up and clean your room or turn off the lights or go take out the garbage or anything else, and you start huffing and puffing, you start having a problem, Papa, Grandpa, Uncle, somebody grab that thing, smash it, and throw it outside. There's your problem. And I'm telling you right now, it'll save lives. Watch this, folks. Florida man kills his father, and he wounds his mother. And what was their great crime? Well, their great crime was they told their 23-year-old video game junkie to get a job, to stop playing video games and get a job. And the 23-year-old, who probably had been spending years playing video games by this point, literally kills his father. A Florida man allegedly shot his parents, killing his father and wounding his mother. Somebody say devil. Okay? After his father grilled him for spending too much time playing video games and not getting a job. Can you believe this? Joseph Voigt, 23, fled after leaving Martin Voigt, 63, dead, and Susan Voigt, 58, with a gunshot wound to the head, killed his parents. Police responded to the scene after Susan Voigt reported the incident at around 11:20 p.m. on Saturday. Barstow Police Department said that they arrived to find Martin Voigt dead in the driveway from apparent gunshot wounds, and Susan Voigt inside the home suffering from a serious gunshot wound. She was taken to a hospital in critical condition over a video game. Parents, if you ever needed a little extra encouragement to take that hammer out of that toolbox and knock the snot out of that video game, there you have it. Get it before it gets you. These are very dangerous things. They're meant to not only consume the time of your young person, but to give them an artificial sense of accomplishment. And this is why they get very caught up, because they are accomplishing things, either achieving levels or gaining rewards or gathering some types of points or achieving certain results. These all mitigate real world achievement, as clearly indicated by these parents who were saying, go out and achieve something in the real world. And that young man was so consumed by his virtual world that he would rather face life in prison which he's not going to get to play video games there. So that was a really stupid choice, right? That goes to show you how insane they actually go. And so, folks, you are not being a mean parent by taking video games away from your children. You are not being a bad parent by taking a hammer to it. You see this kind of behavior. You see shortness of temper. You see irritability. You see a young man or young woman that won't listen to you because they're playing a game, or I want to play my games, and that's the excuse for everything. You put a hammer to that thing and you do it quick, because these things are loaded with all kinds of. It would take a long time for you to figure out all the tricks they put in there. Man, the kids playing them. The kids playing the games take years to figure out all the cheat codes. And they're playing the game every day. And they barely can find everything that's in it. So there's no way as parents we're ever going to figure that out. The best answer is a hammer. I'm just letting you know. Give them something else to do. Drawing, writing, other things that are in the real world that, occupy the creative part of their mind. Things that will pull on them for creativity or intelligence or challenge them. Real accomplishments, another real big answer, folks. We used to go out and do things. We used to actually try things in the real world, experiments. We used to have great fairs. Remember that? You used to have to go to a science fair and actually bring something to the science fair. Remember those days? Things like that used to be normal. I don't know what happened. Maybe we got too caught up in our awesomeness to where we stopped participating in the earth, the amazing earth that our beautiful, wonderful Most High gave us to live in. And that's why I think you have to start disconnecting from the world and start returning to the earth. As a matter of fact, the people that are the most awake are the ones that I see that have already done that. Some of you are, you're returning to natural remedies. You're returning to the earth. The earth is healing you. The earth is swallowing up the poisons that the enemy meant to destroy you. The earth is aiding you in your escape. Isn't that a wonderful thing? And so let us encourage one another in this hour. That's a very important time period as we're walking up to this time period right now. It is, again, very dangerous. I do want to encourage all of you who are paying attention to the economic situation. This isn't going to, the dollar's not going to make a rousing comeback, folks. It is a debt-based currency. It stands no chance against any equity-based currency, and certainly no chance against anything Kadosh. So let me encourage you to find the way of escape. If you don't know where that is, ask somebody in the house of the strong and very courageous. Well, that's it for tonight. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you, and I certainly want to encourage you all to seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Shalom.